Nasrallah buried, Beirut battered. Iran's supreme leader leads Friday prayers. Tehran sends out a big warning to Israel. But how will Israel respond to Iran's missile strikes? World on the brink of a bigger war. India Today live from the war zone. Combat journalism from the ground in the three countries that are involved directly in this conflict, from Israel to Iran to Lebanon. Over the next 1 hour, I'm going to take you down to the ground and through India Today's cameras tell you what the latest is, even as the world anticipates a big reaction from Israel. I'm Shiv Aroor. This is India First. Live ground reports coming up, but first the headlines. Iran's supreme leader Khamenei leads Friday prayers in Tehran with a sniper rifle in his hand, mourns the death of Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah, warns of more attacks on Israel. Meanwhile, Hezbollah chief Nasrallah, who was killed in an airstrike a few days ago, has reportedly been buried at a secret location. His successor Hashim Safieddin reportedly also killed in an Israeli airstrike, but there's no confirmation of this yet. Supreme Court orders constitution of a new special investigation team to probe alleged adulteration in Tirupati prasadam. Jagan Reddy hits out at Andhra Chief Minister, says Naidu played with the sentiments of devotees. Pawan Kalyan hits out at Rahul Gandhi and Udayanidhi Stalin. The Deputy Chief Minister of Andhra accuses them of insulting Lord Ram and Sanatan Dharm, seeks a Sanatan Dharm certification for prasadam in temples. Telangana Minister repeats sexist slur against Samantha Ruth Prabhu and Naga Chaitanya, says she spoke the truth. Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav questions Rahul Gandhi's silence. The only Indian television network with ground reporters, war reporters in all three countries directly involved in this conflict. Gaurav Sawant is reporting from northern Israel in the front with the Hezbollah. Ashraf Wani has been in southern Lebanon and Beirut for the last 10 days, reporting fearlessly from the places where airstrikes have taken place, including where Hassan Nasrallah, the chief of the Hezbollah, was killed a few days ago. And Rajesh Pawar is live with us from Tehran, the first Indian journalist reporting from Tehran just a few days after Iran launched nearly 200 missiles into Israel. We'll be going across to each one of them to get us their ground report and ground view of a rapidly escalating situation. Israel is at war with Iran, with the Hezbollah. Its ground offensive is ramping up, and Beirut has been facing the onslaught. These are images from Beirut earlier today. Massive plumes of smoke were visible in Beirut after Israel struck the southern suburbs of the Lebanese capital. These pictures show the aftermath of destruction caused in Dahieh yesterday. Along a main market street, nearly all storefronts have been damaged as streets are seen filled with debris and broken glass in Beirut's southern suburbs. The aftermath of Israeli airstrikes has left several buildings reduced to rubble. Nothing is open. Everything is closed. At least 18 Palestinian refugees were reported killed after Israeli airstrikes hit a three-story building in Tulkarem, a city in the north of the West Bank, setting the building on fire. Israel's air defense systems continued to intercept rockets fired from southern Lebanon on Friday as they continue to exchange fire with Iran-backed Hezbollah militants north of the border. Billows of smoke were seen rising from failed rockets near buildings not far from the border. The big development today, however, viewer, was that Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, made his first appearance hosting the Friday prayers in a very rare appearance since the last 5 years on the day of Hezbollah chief Nasrallah's reported funeral. Apparently, it was a mock funeral in a secret location. A mournful Khamenei called the October 1st strikes against Israel as a minimum punishment. He was talking about the missile strikes by Iran into Israel and warned that if provoked, Iran will not hesitate to strike Israel again, claiming that they will stop at nothing to defeat the enemy. Take a look.
The Supreme Leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, made a rare public appearance in Tehran on Friday. Khamenei led the Friday prayers at the Imam Khamenei Musalla to commemorate the death of Hezbollah chief Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. The last time he led Friday prayers was 5 years ago to commemorate the death of Qasem Soleimani, commander of Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps. The streets of Tehran were flooded by lakhs of people. Every road, every corner of the mosque was plastered with posters of the Hezbollah chief and Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. The Iranian supreme leader got visibly emotional as he hailed Nasrallah as a martyr.
We are all in a state of pain and mourning the martyrdom of our dear Sayyid. This is a big loss. However, our mourning does not mean losing hope.
Khamenei also recalled Tuesday's missile strikes on Israel, referring to Iran's attack as least punishment.
The move taken by our armed forces was the least punishment for the occupying Zionist regime in the face of the crimes, the unbelievable crimes committed by that regime, the bloodthirsty regime.
With a sniper rifle next to him in a symbolic show of strength, he also justified the October 7 Hamas attack on Israel.
And Al-Aqsa flood operation that October last year was carried out, that was a correct move, logical move based on international law, and Palestinians had the right to do so.
In his address that lasted over an hour, Khamenei also issued a direct warning to Israel.
Any nation has the right to defend its soil, its houses, its country, its interests. They have the right to defend that in the face of aggressors. We neither hesitate, we will not give up, but we will not rush at the same time.
Khamenei's address was broken by chants of death to Israel and America and cries in support of Hezbollah and Hamas.
The enemy of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the enemy of the Iranian nation is the enemy of the Palestinian nation. The enemy is the same. The order is issued from one place, and that order is issued from the same place to attack Islamic nations and Islamic countries.
The Supreme Leader of Iran has made his and Iran's intent clear that this war is far from over. Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining me live now are Gaurav Sawant from northern Israel. He's in Haifa at this point of time, and Ashraf Wani in Lebanon. He's been reporting from all of the areas where airstrikes have been taking place. Gaurav, quickly coming to you first. The Jewish New Year, ends very soon. all eyes will be on what Israel's next move is going to be. The combat continues across the northern border with the Hezbollah positions still firing rockets apparently into Israeli positions. What are you hearing on the ground? October the 7th is only a couple of days away, and there is a great deal of anticipation that Israel's response could come before then.
Shiv, you're absolutely right. One, anticipation. Two, apprehension. Apprehension of a massive strike. And again, a strike not just by the Hezbollah. And that's exactly why you have the Israeli forces that are constantly targeting Hezbollah strongholds, their rocket positions, their missile positions. Even as we speak, the ground forces, the intelligence operations, simultaneous air and ground operations continue to neutralize and weaken and degrade Hezbollah's warfighting capabilities as much as possible. Shiv, you and I were reporting from the southern part of the country last year, exactly this time. 7th of October was the worst terror attack in Israel's history. 1 year it's taken them to degrade Hamas as a rocket and missile fighting terrorist organization. It still remains a threat, but the level of threat has reduced. But now the same is being tried. So Hamas is one arm of Iran's regime. Hezbollah is the other arm of the Iranian regime. Houthi is the third leg of, that terror regime as they're known as here in Israel. So what is Israel doing? They've cut off one arm, which is Hamas. They're currently in the process of cutting off the second arm, which is Hezbollah. And Shiv, you know the lay of this land very well. What Israel is attempting to do right now, even as we speak, from the Israel border.
Gaurav, we've lost that audio with you. We'll get back to it in just a moment. Apologies for that. We'll just that last 10 seconds of what you said we lost. We'll try and re-establish with Gaurav. But in the meantime, let me bring Ashraf in. Ashraf, Gaurav was talking about the Hamas almost completely being decimated. And now Israel is in the process of trying to completely neutralize the Hezbollah in full. We do know that unlike the Hamas, the Hezbollah is a very, very different kind of organization, much more well-armed, bigger, part of the political system in a country like Lebanon. You've been traveling, across Beirut and across southern Lebanon as well, Ashraf. What is Israel trying to do? Are they only trying to neutralize some parts, or are they actually trying to finish off the Hezbollah? And can they even do that?
Sure, they cannot do that because 1 year is on when on 8th of October, Israel started finishing the Hamas, which is in the periphery as well as in the control of their country, because Gaza is controlled by the Israel itself. But during last 1 year, there is a question mark not only asked by the many in the world, but also from the own citizens of Israel, that still the goals set by the Benjamin Netanyahu, which he assured to the population of Israel that within months
Ashraf,
and
I think
weeks,
we're having a problem with your audios. Yeah.
Within weeks, they are going to bring back all those hostages who were made hostage during the 7th of October 2023. But still, there are more than 100 hostages with the Hamas. If ground invasion has been made in the Gaza, which is the smaller area as compared to the southern Lebanon, and also the most of the infrastructure has been completely destroyed. More than 41,000 people had been killed. More than 1 lakh are injured. But still, there is Hamas giving the fight to the ground forces in Gaza. And as you said, Hezbollah is the multiple force of Hamas. They have well-trained fighters as well as the long-range and mid-range missiles. Also, the number of the Hezbollah fighters is much, much more than the Hamas fighters, and complete backing by a full-fledged country that is Iran as well as the Lebanon. Despite that, this fight for the Israel will be very tough. That is why in the start of the ground invasion, they said that the ground invasion is restricted to the limited areas and is not permanent. Probably Israeli defense forces want to sense the situation on the ground, where they are facing very tough fight from the Hezbollah, not only by the on the ground, but also by the rockets and missiles. Yesterday, 200 missiles were fired by the Hezbollah towards the northern Israel. Today is the same scenario, where we are getting reports that more than 100 rockets and the anti-tank missiles had been fired by the Hezbollah fighters. That means it is going the tough challenge for the IDF in the southern Lebanon to completely occupy as it did before 2006.
Stay with me, Ashraf. Gaurav, coming back to you. Gaurav, remember, is heading into northern Israel, the very area that is being targeted by Hezbollah positions right now. Gaurav, what are you hearing from the Israeli forces? They've already got this big front with Iran. You know, apart from the seven-front war that we've been talking about, the two big fronts right now are Iran, which is thousands of kilometers away, and directly with the Hezbollah in northern Israel, which is where you are headed into right now. How are they going to manage that?
It's a very tough battle, no doubt, but this is a battle that has to be fought. If those 70,000 people have to be returned to Haifa and beyond Haifa till the border, which is about half an hour from where I am right now. So Shiv's situation is extremely precarious. Even now, the moment I reached here, I was told, just keep an eye, where is the nearest bomb shelter? The moment you hear air raid siren, just rush to the bomb shelter. So the threat is very live, and that's exactly why Israel says this is a battle for survival. It is a fight for survival, and they have to neutralize both the Hezbollah and that octopus that feeds the Hezbollah, which is Iran. Will it be a multi-pronged offensive? Israel is prepared for that multi-pronged offensive, but right now it wants to secure the flanks, target the Hamas, target the entire leadership of Hezbollah, degrade Hezbollah, especially south of the Litani River till this border. Once that area is cleared, they know that there is nothing that's going to stab them in the back when they take on Israel, when they take on Iran. And in that, Israel will also be helped by America and NATO countries. And that is something, whether it's with intelligence or neutralizing incoming missiles. So this war is all set to intensify in a very deadly way in the days and weeks ahead. But the first challenge is to neutralize Hezbollah as much as they can. And that is why not just neutralizing Hassan Nasrallah or Fuad Shukr or the other leadership or the tactical leadership, even the new leadership that's coming up, they are being targeted relentlessly so that the Hezbollah cannot regroup, rearm, and then attack Israel.
Gaurav and Ashraf, please stay safe. We will continue to track all the feeds that you're sending us, all the reports that you're sending us. Will be first, of course, here on India Today. All of our viewers around the country wish the both of you safety, and we will keep coming back to you. Thank you very much for joining us on India First at this point of time. Now, remember that one of the big questions that a lot of people have been asking when they talk about the certainty of an Israeli response against Iran for that missile strike is, what could Israel possibly target in Iran? And in that discussion, one of the things that keeps coming up are Iran's nuclear facilities. They're nuclear facilities where they enrich uranium and create weapons-grade uranium for a possible nuclear weapon at some point of time could be on target. But the question is, can Israel credibly target Iran's nuclear facilities? Let's do a reality check on that. First of all, point number one to consider, Iran's nuclear sites, at least the ones that Israel would probably want to target, are at least 2,000 kilometers, about 1,000 miles away from Israel's air bases, which means that Israeli fighter aircraft and bomber aircraft would definitely need some kind of aerial refueling in order to just get to those areas to conduct that kind of airstrike, which means that Israeli aircraft would need to overfly many, many hostile countries, possibly Saudi Arabia, Syria, Lebanon, and others, in order to even reach, a country like Iran. So that's sovereign airspace. That's, of course, a completely different complication. Let's assume that the aircraft from Israel have been able to cross those obstacles. They still have to enter Iranian airspace, and Iran has its own air defense shield. They've got ground weapons, they've got surface-to-air missiles, they've got air defense weaponry on the ground. So no Israeli fighter or bomber would be able to enter Iran uncontested, unmolested, and therefore even reaching any of those nuclear sites would be very, very difficult. Remember that in order to offset the possible damage to at least some of these aircraft from that hostility that Iran would show, Israel would theoretically need to send a large number of aircraft. A Financial Times report says even 100 aircraft would probably need to be sent. Now, Iran's Natanz nuclear site, the biggest nuclear enrichment facility of Iran and part of its nuclear program, is actually situated hundreds of meters below the ground. It's a subterranean facility and it's not on the surface of the earth, so it's deep underground. And Iran's Fordow facility actually happens to be in a dig out in a mountain, so it's basically inside a mountain, so hugely protected by many, many tens of hundreds of meters of earth. Now, Israel does not have the kind of bomb, perhaps the only kind of bomb that can penetrate, tens of meters of earth in order to destroy something that's buried deep beneath, like a nuclear facility. Israel doesn't have the only weapon that is theoretically capable of doing that. It's called the GBU-57A/B, the MOP, the Massive Ordnance Penetrator. Israel doesn't have that weapon, and even if it had that weapon, it doesn't have aircraft that can carry that weapon and deliver it in a credible way. So, all in all, just to summarize, Israel could probably, in a very, very perfect scenario, if they're able to cross all the obstacles and negate all of the different hurdles that I've highlighted here, they would probably be able to damage some of the structures at these nuclear facilities, but they wouldn't be able to destroy them, not even come close to it. So this is very important to note. And I want to get a word in from an air power expert. Group Captain MJ Augustine Vinod has been with us and a good friend on our coverage right through. Group Captain, good evening to you. Thank you for being with us on India First. The thing about target possibilities in Iran, which have been discussions over the last few days, ever since those missile attacks, has been Iran's nuclear facilities, will be perhaps the juiciest targets. And this is, of course, a civilian speaking, so apologies for using that word. But the hurdles and obstacles I have listed, do they sound correct to you? That even contemplating targeting Iran's nuclear facilities would be a very, very difficult exercise, sir?
Absolutely, Shiv. As usual, you're on target. So as far as I know, these targets have been contemplated and found not feasible because they are scattered all over the country. I mean, people who know, has been my PhD subjections. It was, I know, people who know it is like any other nuclear facility of any country. It's strewn all over Iran. Like the one you mentioned, Natanz Enrichment Facility. In Isfahan, they have the nuclear research center, which is again hundreds of meters under the ground, and where huge trucks can be driven. All the mining activity in Sagand, there's a place called Narigan, and another one which comes to my mind is Zarigan. There is another place which is southeast of Tehran. Uranium enrichment mining activities have increased. How can you target those? Now you have in place very close to where we are now carrying out an exercise near Bandar Abbas called Faza Uranium Conversion Facility, where the ore is now converted to be taken to a centrifuge. And then the most critical part is the light water and heavy water facility, which is at a place called, if I'm not wrong, Bushehr and Arda Khan. So these two places, which again is on the coast of Persian Gulf, another very critical facility, only one available. In fact, when the heavy water at Khondab and light water at Bushehr is hit, they don't have heavy water and light water for enrichment. So that could be some of the targets that they may be looking at, but the storage of light and heavy water for next at least 4 to 5 years have been kept under the ground. How will you hit that? So these have been looked in and have been negated. So what could be the first line of targets will be, Shiv, to take out the immediate threat that Israel faces from Iran, namely the rocket launching facilities.
Right. The missile sites, you mean? You're talking about the missile sites.
Missile sites is where, and they also have a lot of mobile missile capability which Iran has. How much they will be able to take it out. I really don't know. And the second one is the leadership. So that is where they are going to get at, because again, Tehran, though professional army, is a leader-centric army rather than a process-centric army.
Right.
So they will probably be looking at, hard intelligence, because the penetration of Mossad in the intelligence and the army and the rest of the facility in Tehran is huge, and it has been cultivated over decades.
Yes.
So the intelligence flow from Tehran to Mossad into Israel is tremendous. You cannot eliminate that. Tehran can try as much as they want. On their crosshair will be every officer, but there is no way of knowing. So the leadership is something I think they will go against, because those are immediate threats. Going against nuclear facility could be token, Shiv, and only those to which it will A, have immediate impact, B, tell the world that we hit some nuclear facility. But it is all over strewn. You cannot do anything about it. Rightly put by you.
Do you think, Group Captain Sir, do you think that Israel is going to want to cause some kind of real damage, or is it going to want to be seen to have responded to the Iranian missile strike? Because that's a very important part, isn't it? Here, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on. Even the Iranians, when they fired those missiles, they made sure that they didn't fire them at any cities. There was no, forget about large scale, there was hardly any loss of life. I think one person died reportedly, hardly any damage reported on the ground. So that was also very calculated. It was more as a message than as a destructive message.
Absolutely. And in fact, it is for, to me, it was like, a morale booster strike for Hezbollah to continue to fight. And the Hezbollah fighters on the ground don't get adequate and accurate information. So they are taken or swept away by the tall claims of Tehran, and they believe it to be true. So unka morale aur thoda 10 kadam aur badh jata hai, and they start, keep at it. And the retaliation is also going to be, I cross my heart and say this, and I hope so, that it is going to be as token as what Tehran did. If that is the only way this can move towards peace, because Shiv, till now, Israel was fighting two terrorist organizations, namely Hamas, Hezbollah. First time, two nations are going to fight or already in fight, which is Iran and Israel. So it is a different ball game altogether. When nations come together to fight, then the United Nations steps in. When a country fights against a non-state, so-called non-state entity like Hamas, Hezbollah, United Nations stepping in becomes difficult, next to impossible, actually. So those, when these, things come woven together, the international pressure mounts on them, and then hopefully the entire thing, including fight against Palestine, Hamas, Lebanon, Hezbollah, and the fight between Iran and Israel, hopefully, cross my finger, hopefully come to an end, because now you have gotten to a realm of, conventional warfare between two nations, in which the United Nations can step in.
Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. Thanks as always, Group Captain Sir, for joining us and making sense of these complicated issues day after day right here on India Today. And I promise you, you'll see much more of Group Captain Vinod here on our coverage. Former fighter pilot, is an air power expert, and there are fighter pilots like him conducting many of those missions that Israel is carrying out in different parts of Gaza and in southern Lebanon. The war between Israel and the Hezbollah in Lebanon has been on for 18 days now. Of course, there's been intermittent fighting even before that, but 18 days is where the real escalation has taken place. Let me just show you how things have escalated between Israel and Lebanon. Lebanon is right to the north. On September the 17th, you remember the headline, suddenly thousands of pagers, devices belonging to Hezbollah members exploded, killing many of them, killing many civilians and injuring thousands as well in the country. The next day, on September the 18th, a second wave of explosions of communication devices, including walkie-talkies of Hezbollah leaders and civilians, took place inside Lebanon. On the 19th, 2 days later, southern Lebanon, Israel says it struck hundreds of rocket launch positions of the Hezbollah. And that's what the Israeli army has been saying. They've been trying to strike. The Israeli Air Force and the military have been trying to strike military offensive positions of the Hezbollah. September 20th, in Beirut, Israel struck a residential building in a crowded suburb. Those are the images of that strike. September the 21st, Israel struck, or says it struck, 400 Hezbollah targets, including military infrastructure in different parts of southern Lebanon. On September the 22nd, Israel targeted, or says it targeted, 290 Hezbollah positions that were indulging in heavy firing on Israel army positions in northern Israel. On September the 23rd, Israel conducted over 1,300 airstrikes in South Lebanon in a matter of just a few days. By September the 24th, dozens were killed in Israeli airstrikes. Hezbollah missile capabilities then escalated. There were attacks in response to that. On the 25th of September, the Hezbollah launched long-range anti-tank missile attacks towards Tel Aviv. Israel deployed additional reserve troops after this. On the 26th, Israel rejected a 21-day ceasefire proposal by the US and France. On the 27th of September, Netanyahu claimed Israel is winning, and deadly strikes then took place in Beirut. On the 28th of September, Israel confirmed the death of Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. It actually happened the previous day while Netanyahu was at the United Nations, but it was declared on September the 28th. On October the 1st, Iran launched 181 ballistic missiles at Israel. Israel claims that most of them were intercepted, but definitely some of them hit their targets, but not very much damage done, reportedly. On October the 3rd, Israel claimed that Hassan Nasrallah's successor in the Hezbollah, Hashem Safieddin, was also killed in an Israeli airstrike in Beirut. The Hezbollah has not confirmed this, like they did with Nasrallah's death. On October the 4th, Iran's supreme leader, remember Iran funds and supports the Hezbollah, the supreme leader Khamenei led the Friday prayers, issuing a strong warning to Israel. Now, India Today's Ashraf Wani, who's been reporting fearlessly through Beirut and southern Lebanon for the last 10 days, gets you an exclusive look into the impact of Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon. Here's his report from the center of the Israel-Hezbollah conflict.
During last 24 hours, 200 aerial strikes had been carried out by the IDF, or we can say Israeli defensive forces in the Lebanon, and 150 of them only in the South Lebanon. I'm currently in the war zone in South Lebanon, and you can see the impact of these air blasts, or we can say missiles from air or air bombing. This is the spot where that bomb has actually hit. I cannot even move here, and at least 20 to 25 feet deep this hole has been created, and the infrastructure what was here, you can see its push, and it has completely got vanished in that air strike. And if there is anything, a simple structure what was here, that was on the target, and that has completely got destroyed. And not only that, but all those vehicles at that point of time which were moving on this road had this kind of condition. The trees had got derooted. You can see this tree has got derooted here. This is another car, at least I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 cars had been affected by that huge airstrike during yesterday night here in the South Lebanon. Currently in the southern part of the Lebanon, this is the battlefield between the IDF and Hezbollah. During last 24 hours, Israel has carried out 200 aerial strikes in different parts of the Lebanon, particularly in the South Lebanon. The town you are seeing behind me is the part of the southern Lebanon, and it is the Tyre city. Then you have the sea route, which may be hardly 40 kilometers, which reaches to the Israel and touches the Israeli borders. In the Mediterranean Sea behind me, there is a huge deployment of US naval forces as well as the US warships on those naval ships. And today being the Friday, and the final prayers of the Hassan Nasrallah will be conducted not only here in the Lebanon but also in Syria and particularly in Iraq.
And Ashraf Wani is still with us from Beirut in Lebanon. Ashraf, one final question to you is that after the killing of Hassan Nasrallah, the Israeli military also claims to have killed his successor, Safiuddin. But that has not been confirmed from the ground by the Hezbollah or any Lebanese authorities. Is it true? What are you hearing?
So far, not confirmation from the Hezbollah, but one thing which is necessary to mention here, during the last night, also the media office of the Hezbollah was targeted, where they were using that facility for circulation of their press releases and the visuals, what they want to distribute during this war. That office has been already hit yesterday night. And before that, a television channel, which was used to be the Hezbollah TV channel, its headquarters was also targeted. The mobile facility, tower facility in the suburbs, Dahia district of South Beirut, that was also targeted. So completely there is a massive strikes going on the Hezbollah installations, their infrastructure, their working capabilities, that may have shaken a bit to the Hezbollah, and probably that is why still they have not made any clear confirmation whether the Saifuddin is dead or he's alive.
All right, thanks very much, Ashraf. We'll see you again later. Thanks very much for getting us those inputs. A mock funeral for Hassan Nasrallah took place, but it was held in secret because of the possibility of large crowds turning out and it becoming a possible target for an airstrike. So there's still a degree of mystery around Hassan Nasrallah's own body, not a single picture of which has emerged so far. And we'll update you as soon as we hear more from our men on the ground. Now, 2 days after it fired 181 missiles into Israel, Iran may be signaling another escalation, but Israel too is not backing down, even as the world expects the escalation from Israel's side. The Israel Defense Forces targeted Hezbollah chief successor Hashim Safiuddin today, what we were talking about before the break, the same day that Hassan Nasrallah was secretly buried at an undisclosed location. Take a look.
This is the Hezbollah headquarters in Beirut, Lebanon. This is where Hezbollah chief was when Israel airstrikes hit on 28 September.
I'm currently standing and am the first international journalist from India today who is at the Hezbollah headquarters here in South Beirut. Behind me you can see this was a 6-story building when Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, was taking a meeting of his commanders in the basement, which was underground almost 15 feet below the ground, where he was taking that meeting.
Israel Air Force F-15 planes dropped 85 bunker buster bombs, causing a big crater. Reports say that Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah's body was recovered from this crater. Al Jazeera suggested that Nasrallah's body showed no direct physical injury, raising the likelihood that his death resulted from shock due to the force of the explosion. But a week after the Hezbollah chief's death, the world is yet to see the physical evidence of Nasrallah's dead body. On 4th October, sources close to Lebanon's Hezbollah claimed that the slain leader Hassan Nasrallah was temporarily buried in secret location due to fear of Israeli targeting large funeral. In his first appearance as leader at Friday prayers in about 5 years, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei mourned his death.
We are all in a state of pain and mourning the martyrdom of our dear Sayyid. This is a big loss. However, our mourning does not mean losing hope. Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah is no longer with us physically. His spirit, his path, and his resident grace will continue to be with us forever.
Iraq's health ministry reported that 100 newborns were named Nasrallah in honor of the Hezbollah chief, Hassan Nasrallah, after his assassination by Israel. Hezbollah, though, has called reports of Nasrallah's funeral or burial in Karbala are false. Reports now suggest the symbolic funeral of Hassan Nasrallah will be held on Friday. The possibility of a large-scale public funeral procession in Beirut is slim, given the ongoing Israeli strikes. Bureau Report, India Today.
Israel at war continues to be our top story and top focus through and over the weekend as well, right here on India Today. Thanks for watching. Our teams on the ground in Israel, Iran and Lebanon will continue to bring you the most credible, first-hand combat journalism that you've seen in this conflict. Thanks for watching. The news continues on the other side.